During an investigation of an anomalous material sample, there was yet another accident. This time, however, Alyx Vance was involved. She was struck by an energy discharge. And then she grew to an enormous size. At first, everyone was worried about her as she suffered from uncontrollable growth spurts. Her father, Eli, was particularly concerned. His wife, Asian, had died some time ago, and his daughter Alyx was all he had left in life. But gradually, it became apparent that this accident was not only harmless to Alyx but even brought enormous advantages. Over time, Alyx learned that she could control her growth through her thoughts. All she needed was willpower. Alyx quickly decided to use her new abilities to fight the Combine. She even managed to save the infamous Gordon Freeman from the Combine by growing into a giantess and simply crushing the Combine units underfoot. With the help of scientists and through rigorous training, she gradually learned to control her growth spurts better and to adjust her size to the situation. This gave her a significant advantage in the fight against the Combine. Alyx used her new abilities to launch strategic attacks. She could stomp entire enemy bases, operate enormous weapons, and serve as a protective force for her friends and allies. But of course, all this had its consequences. Enemy forces worked on their own special weapons. At the moment, Alyx was on a mission as a 100-meter-tall giantess. She wore her regular clothes, which luckily grew with her whenever she enlarged. It was in the early evening hours when Alyx Vance, in her gigantic form, attacked the Combine base amidst the ruined city. Each of her steps caused tremors, and the walls of the base shook under the colossal presence of the giantess. The Combine soldiers stood no chance and were crushed like bugs by the half-Asian giantess. The ground cracked and crunched under her boot as Alyx stepped on a group of soldiers. Blood spurted from under her shoe, and then she stepped on the next group. She used her handgun, which had also grown with her, to shoot enormous holes into the fortress walls ahead. Some Combine inside had the misfortune of being hit and shredded by the enormous bullets as they blasted through the walls. Alyx smiled with satisfaction. This mission was almost too easy. In just a few minutes, she would have completely destroyed the base. But then something unexpected happened. Suddenly, a blinding beam shot out from within the base, piercing the darkness and striking Alyx with brutal precision. A burning sensation coursed through her body as the Combine's advanced ray weapon began to disrupt the delicate balance of energy and mass in her giant form. Alyx's body started to vibrate, and she felt her size changing uncontrollably. Her legs grew unevenly large while her arms fluctuated in grotesque proportions. A desperate struggle against the effect of the beam was futile, and Alyx gradually lost control over her massive body. With a deafening crash, Alyx fell to the ground, her gigantic hand smashing into the rubble of the half-destroyed base. The earth trembled under the impact, and clouds of dust rose into the air. Alyx desperately struggled to get up, but the uncontrollable changes in her size made it impossible for her to stand. Amidst the chaos and destruction, Alyx felt a wave of panic wash over her. She knew she had lost control of her size and urgently needed a way out. With the last of her strength, she managed to gather her mental focus and decided to shrink to escape the devastating effect of the beam. With an intense act of will, Alyx's massive form slowly began to shrink as her surroundings distorted and changed. Soon, she found herself back to her normal size, but the threat was not yet over. The ruined Combine base still loomed before her, and she sensed her enemies were not far off, and they were heavily armed, not a problem for a giantess. But now, as a normal-sized human, absolutely deadly, Alyx knew she didn't have much time left. With quick steps, she rushed to a nearby cave that lay in the shadow of the destroyed city. Some Combine soldiers followed her initially, but then halted when their commander said, "Hold it, boys. She's heading into the cave, but she'll escape us," another shouted, "Weapon at the ready, don't worry. She won't survive. That cave leads to a tunnel infested with zombies and headcrabs." Alyx felt the menacing presence of the Combine soldiers behind her as she entered the cave. Her heartbeat quickened as she ventured deeper into the darkness, but she suppressed her fear and focused on her mission. Through her communicator, she reached out to her father, Eli Vance. "Dad, I'm in the cave. The Combine are on my tail." Eli's worried voice crackled through the device. "Alyx, listen to me. That tunnel is extremely dangerous. There are reports of countless headcrabs and zombies in that area. Be careful and get out quickly." No risks, please, Alyx nodded, knowing her father couldn't see her. She drew her weapon and proceeded further into the dark depths of the cave. Better zombies than the Combine, she muttered to herself, though she felt a deep panic inside. The tunnel was a labyrinth of decaying corridors and grimy walls. The distant growls of monsters echoed through the darkness. And Alyx felt the icy breath of death in the air. In the abandoned car wrecks, there were surely numerous corpses, and some of them were undoubtedly wandering around as zombies. Her breath came quick and heavy. Suddenly, the walls were shaken by crunching noises and scraping claws as a horde of headcrabs lunged at her. Alyx didn't hesitate and opened fire, fighting her way through the horde of headcrabs. Every step was a battle for survival, and her body was bitten and scratched. With precise shots, she took down 3 of the headcrabs and managed to take refuge behind the door of a maintenance office. But just as she closed the door and turned around, a zombie was standing right in front of her. Ah! Oh, shit! She screamed, shocked, and fired everything she had. Luckily, she hit her mark, and the zombie collapsed in front of her. Quickly, she moved forward and stomped hard on the headcrab that had replaced the zombie's head, crushing it under her boot. In this situation, another message reached Alyx's ear via the communicator. This time it was Isaac Kleiner. Alyx, I have a plan. Near your position, there is an old outpost where I hid one of my teleportation devices. It's uncertain if it still works, but it's your only chance to get out of there alive. The resistance used it frequently in the past to evacuate refugees from the city. Understood, Alyx replied, changing the magazine of her weapon. It was her last one. Can you guide me? I'm in some sort of maintenance office in the tunnel area. Yes, I know it. That's very good. You're already close. Now you just need to. Determined, Alyx followed Kleiner's directions and fought her way through the labyrinth, past more horrific creatures blocking her path. Her body grew weaker with each passing moment, but her will remained unbroken. Injured and exhausted, she finally reached the hidden outpost and found the teleportation device. She locked the steel door behind her, but could immediately hear the claws and fists of zombies pounding against it. Time was running out as she activated the machine and prepared to teleport to safety. There seemed to be enough power, but there was another problem, Isaac. The console is apparently broken. I can't input any coordinates. Dr. Kleiner thought for a moment. That shouldn't be a problem. The teleporters always store the last coordinates. I don't know where that leads to, but you should be able to teleport. Eli interrupted. That's crazy. You don't know where she'll end up. If at all. Without coordinates, she could dematerialize. Literally vanish into thin air. But the pounding on the door grew more intense, the dents becoming larger. It's no use. I'm out of time. I have to try. Alyx stepped onto the teleport platform and flipped the switch. Lightning arced around her, sparks flew, everything glowed, and then her body dissolved in the beam of the transporter. Meanwhile, on the distant planet of Mura, the Asian mega-giantess Ryung was getting ready for a mission. Alyx, the pink-skinned axolotl giantess, stood beside the slightly smaller Asian giantess with her impressive height of over 200 meters and asked, "Are you sure you don't want me to come along?" Ryung waved her off. No. It's a very simple mission. I'm just helping to end a war. The people there have very primitive weapons. Nothing dangerous. You can take some rest. Alyx nodded. Okay. If you say so. But be careful. I will, Ryung said kindly, winking at Alyx. Then she disappeared into the glowing portal, but something was wrong. The portal didn't close behind her as it usually did. Instead, sparks flew and lightning shot out. And then, suddenly, a tiny figure flew through it. The bewildered Alyx reacted quickly, reaching out to catch the small human. She skillfully caught her, landing the tiny person safely in her enormous hand. Ryung? Is that you? Alyx felt turbulence. Something was wrong with the teleporter. She was being tossed around, saw a sudden blinding light, felt herself being hurled through the air, then luckily landed softly. Disoriented, she opened her eyes and saw something huge and pink above her, all blurry. As she opened her eyes wider, she saw the creature clearly, a gigantic pink monster with sharp teeth. And she was in its hand, surrounded by colossal fingers. Alyx wanted to get up and flee, but she was too exhausted. She lost consciousness and remained in Alyx's hand. It was all too much for her. She closed her eyes, everything went black, and her consciousness drifted into a deep sleep. The young axolotl giantess examined the small woman in her hand closely. Damn. This isn't Ryung. Whoever she is, she's hurt. What am I supposed to do now? The little one needed medical attention urgently. So Alyx decided to take her to one of their small cities, which were somewhat technologically advanced. They had good doctors there. They could surely help. Meanwhile, in the tunnel near City 23, an incredible mass was forming in the teleporter. Something huge was suddenly expanding. The entire room exploded, then the tunnel collapsed, and even the mountain above it cracked open. The combined troops, who were trying to clear some of the debris from the half-destroyed fortress, noticed the ground shaking suddenly. They looked around and saw a part of the mountain at the city's edge breaking apart. And the head of a giantess emerged, then her upper body. She's back. One shouted, another, she's grown inside the tunnel. Is it really her? I think she's wearing different clothes. Maybe she changed, someone else said over the radio. The commander shouted over the radio to everyone, stop talking nonsense and open fire. The soldiers immediately raised their rifles and fired at the giantess with all their might. Ryung felt pressure around her, then suddenly found herself standing in open terrain, surrounded by the rubble of the mountain. As the dust settled and Ryung examined her surroundings more closely, she realized she was in a completely unfamiliar world. The ruins of an abandoned city stretched out before her, with the remnants of buildings and the skeletal remains of towers standing as silent witnesses to a bygone civilization. Ryung was confused and unsettled. What had happened? And where in the world had she ended up? This is the wrong planet, she muttered to herself, noticing tiny projectiles bouncing off her shield. The Combine now resumed firing their secret weapon at Ryung. However, with her shield in place, the energy beam had no effect on her. Ryung stepped out of the mountain, rocks and large clumps of earth falling from her body, and slowly advanced towards the ruined city. What a greeting. I just got here, and I'm already being shot at. And what happened to this city? It looks terrible. And then she noticed something crawling up her feet. Small creatures and horribly mutilated humans. What the hell? Are those zombies? Wah? Ryung cried out, shaking herself and quickly stomping up and down to crush the strange beings under her bare feet. Her shield fortunately held against the energy beams, and she continued marching towards the city after stomping all the zombies in her immediate vicinity. More debris from the former mountain cascaded off her body as she surveyed the devastated surroundings. What happened here? This looks like the aftermath of a nuclear attack or something. Suddenly, more combined units emerged from the ruins and took up combat positions. The soldiers fired relentlessly at Ryung, but their attacks seemed to have little effect on the mighty giantess. Ryung wondered why she was being attacked and by whom. Her mood was growing increasingly irritated. The grotesque creatures she had just crushed had aroused her disgust and aversion. And these soldiers? Who were they? Ryung stood before the firing Combine troops, her enormous figure towering over the city's ruins. Instead of defending herself, she wanted to know what was going on. Who are you? And why are you shooting at me? Stop it. But the Combine soldiers were relentless. Their commander, equipped with a megaphone, shouted back, there is no negotiation. The giantess must be eliminated. Those are our orders. Keep firing. Bring her down. Destroy her. Ryung sighed heavily, her patience being severely tested. But as the Combine troops continued their assault and the threat intensified, her resolve to defend herself grew. With an angry roar, Ryung activated her arm blaster and unleashed a powerful barrage of energy shots at the Combine base. The force of the explosions shook the walls, sending debris flying through the air, as Ryung aimed to neutralize the automated turrets and the Combine's secret weapon. Meanwhile, Ryung moved gracefully through the ranks of the enemy troops, making sure to trample as many of the tiny soldiers as possible. Normally, she would be more lenient, but today she was not in the mood to be friendly. Besides, she needed all her energy for her own shield and to protect herself. Therefore, the secondary shield that would protect beings around her was deactivated. crunching and cracking sounds came from beneath her bare feet with every step she took. A squad of soldiers screamed in desperation as Ryung's foot came down on them, mercilessly crushing and grinding them into a pulp beneath her mighty soul. The air was filled with the sounds of battle and the roar of heavy weapons as Ryung fought with relentless determination. More and more troops were trampled underfoot, and with her arm blaster, she caused increasing damage to the base, all the while causing various plants to grow rapidly, overtaking the debris immediately. Finally, she reached the tower where the commander was stationed. She grabbed the man with the typical white combine mask and lifted him up. When he shot at her, Ryung squeezed and crushed him in her hand. Things began to quiet down. She looked around, stomping on the occasional soldier here and there. It seemed she had won, at least for now. Panting, she sat down in the ruins and studied her wristband. The energy of her shields had suffered considerably during the battle, and she still had no idea where she was. No coordinates, no information about this planet. Nothing, and worst of all, she had no contact with her home world. Meanwhile, on Mura, Alyx slowly opened her eyes and found herself in an unfamiliar room. The soft hum of machines and the gentle light of high-tech devices filled the room as she slowly sat up. She felt her strength returning and the relief overwhelmed her. A doctor approached her with a friendly smile. "Good morning, Miss Vance. That is your name, right? At least, that's what was on the picture in your pocket. Anyway, it's good to see you're conscious again. Your recovery is going well." Alyx was astonished at the cleanliness and orderliness of the hospital. She had never seen a medical facility equipped with such advanced technology, and so clean. "Where am I?" she asked as she looked around. The doctor replied patiently, "You are on Mura, Miss Vance. In one of our advanced hospitals. We used our technology to heal your wounds and nurse you back to health. You are fully recovered." Alyx took a deep breath, relieved by the news. But what kind of place was Mura? Was it a far-off region? She had thought the whole world was in ruins, but here? Here it was different. I need to step around the corner for a moment." A nurse pointed to the small cabin in the corner of the room. Alyx disappeared there briefly and also took the opportunity to change from her hospital gown into her normal clothes. A minute later, she came back out and walked to the window. She wanted to look out and think, but she flinched when she saw the towering figure of Alyx looming over the building. What the? That monster. The doctors noticed her concern and quickly tried to explain everything. "Don't worry, Miss Vance," one of them said soothingly. "Alyx is our protector. She won't harm you. You are safe here." Alyx tried to calm herself as she heard the reassuring words of the doctors. But the uncanny size of Alyx and the strange world of Mura made her feel alienated and lost. Alyx waved awkwardly down at her. Alyx gasped. This is another planet, isn't it?" One of the doctors nodded. "That's right. As I mentioned earlier, this is Mura. You'll like it here. We have a sort of utopia. Complete safety." Alyx was still wary, but she wanted to learn more about this world. At least until she could find a way back home, and there was something else she wanted to try. She concentrated and grew a meter until her head bumped into the ceiling. Ouch. The doctors were astonished. "Oh, you are a size shifter?" Alyx looked at the bewildered people and was also surprised. "Size shifter? Have you seen someone like me before?" "Indeed. There are many giants on Mura. Alyx is one of them. But her current size is her normal size. She is naturally a massive giantess. A so-called axolotl kaiju. But there are also humans here who can change their size and grow into giants. It seems you also possess this ability." "Fascinating." Alyx nodded. "Yes, it's a long story. It has something to do with anomalous matter. But anyway, thank you for helping me." The man waved it off. "Oh, no. Thank Alyx. She brought you here and wanted us to take good care of you." That was interesting. Alyx remembered how she had landed in the hand of this giant pink creature. Was it an intelligent being? Like the aliens on Earth, she walked to the balcony of the room and looked up at Alyx curiously. Then she waved from below. Alyx leaned down and placed her open hand next to the hospital balcony. Come onto my hand, Miss Vance, said Alyx, adding, then we can talk. You can call me Alyx, said the half-Asian woman as she cautiously stepped onto Alyx's soft palm. It felt strange to be in a giant hand. Now she finally understood how the others in the resistance felt whenever she grew into a giantess. Alyx carefully lifted her hand and examined the small woman closely. This is really funny. You look like Ryung, and your name sounds almost like mine. Happy face, Alyx smiled. Yeah. I don't think so. Alyx scratched her head. Yeah. But can you tell me how you got here? Because Ryung, my friend, disappeared the moment you came through the portal. And we can't reach her anymore. Alyx's eyes widened. What? That might mean the portals somehow overlapped. This Ryung is probably on my world. She's in great danger. Alyx became nervous. Great danger? Why? I mean, she is a giantess. Almost as big as I am. Alyx shook her head. That doesn't matter. There's an alien invasion happening on my world right now. Many people are turning into zombies, and brutal troops are trying to annihilate the last of the resistance. We're on the brink of defeat. Alyx felt pain in her heart. She was very empathetic and could almost feel Alyx Vance's deep despair. But the small woman also carried a great hope within her. Wherever she drew that strength from, it was admirable. In that case, we need to quickly find a way to open a new portal to your world. Alyx said determinedly. She closed her fingers around the 3-meter-tall Alyx and strode away. Don't worry. I'll take you to friends who can surely help. Meanwhile, in the ruined city 23, Ryung sat exhausted, wondering what she should do next. She already felt nervousness and fear rising within her. How could she get home if she couldn't even establish contact and had no idea where she was? Out of the corner of her eye, she suddenly saw small movements beside her legs. Something was crawling out of the rubble. She aimed her arm blaster at the small creatures, ready to fire, but the tiny figures raised their arms to signal peaceful intentions. We are not enemies, at least I don't think so, said one of the figures. Ryung brought her face closer. Apparently, it was a young woman, though dirty and battered. She was accompanied by several others, who also looked quite ragged. We're from the resistance. You destroyed the combine here. Looks like we have the same enemies. Are you a friend of Alyx? Did she show you how to become so large? No, I don't know any Alyx, Ryung replied, confused, her voice thunderous and serious. My name is Ryung, and I'm not from here. I was apparently teleported to this place by mistake and am looking for a way back. The young woman and her companions introduced themselves as well. I'm Anna, said the young woman, and this is Marcus, Alyx, and Sarah. We're part of the resistance. We've set up a hidden base in the city's ruins, unnoticed by the combine. Ryung frowned as she heard the names of the resistance fighters. Anna, Marcus, Alyx, Sarah. Good. That's interesting information, but a base? Resistance? Against whom? These soldiers here? Why? What's going on in your world? Anna briefly explained to Ryung what had happened in recent years and what the Resistance's mission was. Ryung nodded, horrified. That's terrible. I'm so sorry you have to go through so much suffering. Anna waved it off. We're used to fighting by now. But we are, of course, grateful for any help. Actually, another giantess was supposed to attack this base. That was Alyx, but she had to flee, and then you suddenly appeared. Since you completely destroyed the combined base here, we owe you one. Ryung shook her head. I was just defending myself. But I could use some help. Do you know anything about portals? Anna looked at her comrades, then back up at Ryung. We don't, but Dr. Kleiner does. We can contact him. But first, you need to help us. Ryung was puzzled. Help? With what? Anna pointed to the ruined base. There must be an underground cell block here somewhere. Some of our people are being held there. Do you think you could clear the rubble out of the way? Maybe we can find a way inside. For Alyx, the situation was quite surreal. While she stood at 3 meters tall, she was in the company of normal-sized people on the massive table of an even larger laboratory. clearly belonging to the giants of this world. Of whom Alyx was one. A woman named Aya was trying to explain something about dimensional shifts and dimension-specific phases, things Alyx had heard about before, but only in theory. These people seemed to use such technologies practically to travel between dimensions. So you're telling me you can pinpoint my dimension based on my phase structure? Alyx asked, scratching her neck. Aya nodded vigorously. Yes. I will need help from some Feringans, but it should be doable. The blood sample from you will help us. However, it might take some time, at least a few hours, damn it. Alyx fumed. I hate sitting around doing nothing. So much could happen in the meantime. Alyx's giant face loomed closer to the table. Don't worry. Ryung can take care of herself. And we'll definitely get you home, you just need to be patient. Alyx paced nervously. How can I be patient? My father will be worried sick. And what about the combined base? What if they kill prisoners? Lives are at stake. Alyx shrugged. Worrying won't change anything. But I can distract you if you like. For example, I have a question, you can grow bigger? How big? Alyx looked at the giant axolotl girl. I can show you if you want. Alyx nodded and took a step back. Go ahead. I'm curious. Alyx focused, and her body began to expand. She grew larger and larger until she had to sit down to avoid hitting the ceiling of the room. Aya watched with her mouth agape as Alyx continued to grow and finally hopped off the table, standing next to Alyx. When her growth stopped, she was still smaller than Alyx, but at over 170 meters, she was significantly gigantic. Normally, I grow to about 50 or 100 meters. That's where I feel most comfortable. But this size is still quite manageable. Alyx was curious. When does it stop being comfortable? When I grow over a mile tall, my entire body feels incredibly heavy and every movement exhausts me. But at this size, it's still fine. Alyx laughed. Oh, I know that feeling. I'm not a size shifter, but whenever I use the gigagrowth function of my bracelet, I feel exactly as you describe. Alyx retrieved another bracelet and an anklet from a drawer. By the way, when you're a giant here, you need to wear these devices. Especially the anklet. It has shield emitters that protect everyone around you. Protect? Alyx wondered. How do you mean? So I can't hurt them. Alyx showed her the complete functionality, from the shields to the portals. She was particularly interested in the reviving function. Seriously? This can revive people? Even if they've been crushed, shot, drowned, or anything like that? Yes, Alyx confirmed. It's an advanced medical technology we got in exchange for some other technology. It's very effective and has saved countless lives. Just one of the ways we try to keep everyone safe here on Mura, Alyx continued to explain. And yes, even crushed people can be revived. At least as long as they died near you and haven't been dead for too long. The device essentially stores the matter configuration of all living beings in the vicinity and can restore them. Oh. So it's like a teleporter. Only, it reassembles the matter in a different state. That's brilliant. Why did we never think of that? I must bring this technology home. It would be incredibly helpful for the resistance. Alyx was thrilled. Alyx was pleased by the positive shift in mood but wanted to do more. If you like, you can try to get some rest while you wait. Let's make the best of the time. That way, you can return home with renewed energy. Alyx nodded. You're probably right. Some rest would do me good. I'll shrink back down. Where can I rest? But Alyx placed a hand on her shoulder. No, please don't shrink. I mean, you can rest as a giant. She grinned broadly. I have a full wellness program for you. You just need to do me a favor when you walk around here as a giant. You mean activate the shield? Alyx wondered. That, and, please take off your shoes. If you step on anyone, it should at least be soft for them. At that moment, Alyx looked down and realized there were indeed many small people scurrying around like ants. Oh. There are people down there, there are people everywhere, Alyx giggled. After all, I've collected entire civilizations. To be continued. We hope you've enjoyed the story so far. For more, subscribe to our channel and check out our Patreon page. We always appreciate comments and a thumbs up. Thank you.